Hello, what is going on everybody? It's me, Rhoku, back with another video for Astralis, and here we have a guide on Darius, the Hand of Noxus. Darius is my one trick, my favorite champion in the entire game, so this is going to be a fun video to record. Now, Darius isn't exactly the easiest champion to pick up and just stomp games with right off the bat. You gotta master his very champion-specific mechanics and just weird playstyle in order to really get the best of him. You can't really just go all in on everybody. Some champions you gotta kite, you gotta land your Qs, use some things intelligently, so Darius is a bit more complicated than it might seem at first glance. However, Darius is a perfect teacher of a lot of top lane fundamentals, and I can think of no better champion to recommend to a top laner who's trying to get better at the game. If you look at the stats on u.gg, you might say, hey, Darius has horrible win rates, but that's because every single person in LoL who understands how to play Darius will not be LoL anymore. He's a champion you can solo carry yourself to diamond with, so yeah, let's just get right into it. Let's start off with the simplest thing, summoner spells. For summoner spells, you want to go for Flash Ghost. This is the only choice for Darius. He's very kiteable and just destroyable without these summoner spells. And if you go for Flash Ignite, you might get a few more kills in lane, but that you won't really be able to do anything against that Zeri who's killing you now, will you? Flash Teleport is an okay-ish option, but you're really neutering your 1v1ing power and your team fighting power, so Flash Ghost is the best option for solo queue. For your Rune page, you're basically good to go just copying this page one-to-one. I'm just going to go into the things you can change in every single tree. So in the precision tree, you can go for tenacity here if you're up against a high CC composition, but in my opinion, alacrity is very important because Darius, without that extra bit of attack speed, is just very difficult to combo things with, and it's just difficult to 1v1 champions in general without that extra attack speed in the side lane. As for resolve, you can go for second wind here if you want to have a bit more sustain in lane. Say you're up against a ranged champion who's going to put you down a lot. Another thing you can go for in the resolve tree is demolish. Demolish is excellent if you want to snowball out of control. If you're up against a champion who roams a lot like Shen or something, you can use demolish to just absolutely destroy his turret before he can even come back. But the thing with demolish is that you can only take it if you are sure you'll have alone time with the enemy turret. What I mean by this, if it's a difficult matchup and the enemy is just going to stand in your face and just try to kill you, then demolish is not the best idea because demolish does nothing in the actual fight. You're basically putting yourself down a rune so that you can actually have extra rewards once you win that fight, but it doesn't help you win the fight. So if you're confident about winning the fight without needing the help from demolish, then you can go for it to snowball even further. If you're really confident, you're smurfing, you're just mechanically good, and you've mastered Darius, then you can go for Nimbus Cloak in the sorcery tree. Nimbus Cloak makes Darius most powerful in his most powerful moments, which is when he uses his summoner spells. The extra burst of move speed gives you a lot more outplay potential, gives you a lot more reach, and it just makes him a lot more fluid and lets you more easily dodge things. As for the other runes, they're all basically useless. The least useless ones are either Transcendence or Celerity, but the thing is both of them are kind of bad. It's like they're just the least bad out of the options, so it's preference really. My preference is the move speed Celerity. If you want the Blood Haze, you can go for Transcendence. Obviously, you can change the stats here to whatever you need, but my recommendation is to keep these two similar, like attack speed AD, and only change the bottom row. Magic resist against AP lanes, armor against heavy AD lanes, or health against free lanes, because the health rune here is actually more gold efficient than the other runes. You get more stats, but it doesn't give you that much stats earlier on. So if it's an easy lane that you're going to win, then go for the health here. But if it's a more difficult lane, then you could go for armor or magic resist, depending on the matchup. Alright, let's get through the items real quick. Doran's Blade is the starting item if you're looking for early all-ins, because it gives us that extra bit of stats we need. Doran's Shield if we need a lot of sustain in lane from a range matchup or just a poke matchup in general. Keep in mind, in some matchups, Doran's Blade is disastrous, but Doran's Shield is good against, or just decent against everybody. So if you're not sure, go for Doran's Shield. It's just a safer option. As for the Mythics, Darius has a bunch of options, and it just depends on what you want to do with the game. Stridebreaker is not the Darius Maze's favorite item, but it is like the item we gotta build because of that massive slow. The slow makes it so that against a lot of these top laners that burst you down with wall like Fiora, you can slow them and just keep the fight long enough for you to get your 5 stacks and just one-shot them with, because these champions just get up in your face and just destroy you in seconds. So you really need that slow in 1v1s. Stridebreaker is also amazing in teamfight, because if you get that slow on someone, and keep in mind it's faster than your Q, that you can really make sure they never get away. Even if they dash away, that slows on them for 3 seconds, so you can catch up to them and maybe even pull them, or just at least continue your fight against them if you have Ghost. Triforce is the favorite of many Darius players, but it is a very risky option in my opinion. Now the thing with Triforce is that if you have a very high level advantage, that extra base AD you'll get will make it so that you'll just one-shot people left and right with the Sheen passive. With Triforce, you absolutely destroy squishies in just one combo. Like if you pull like a Lucian or something, you just kill him in one combo without even needing your 5 stacks to ult them with. It's just that much powerful against squishies. But the thing with Trinity Force is that it gives you no defensive mechanics. It's just HP. Doesn't give you healing, doesn't give you resistances, doesn't give you a slow to kite people with. It's just health. What this basically means is that if you're 1v1 against a champion who built a better 1v1 Mythic, then you're kind of going to get outscaled. Triforce is more so making you a backline threat in teamfights, but not in 1v1. So if you're up against a Trundle or a Fiora or something, or a Jax, then maybe you should think twice before getting Trinity Force. Divine Sunder is an excellent option if you're behind in games as Darius, because it really just gives you like a second win, like a second chance to get back into the game and win an all-in. It's especially effective against tanky targets, like maybe you lost lane to Ornn or something, or a Malphite, or maybe, God forbid, a Sion. Then you can build Divine Sunder and then get back into the game, because with this item, you can win the all-in even if you're like 3-4 kills down. It's just really that powerful against tanky targets. If you're up against a team that has a lot of tanky people in general, like a tank top, jungle, and a support, then Divine Sunder is going to be super huge, because it just lets you, 1, kill tanks, because Darius can no longer kill tanks effectively in the new season, and 2, stay in fights longer because of the massive healing that's off of the enemy champions' HP. Darius' tank killing abilities are no longer that useful anymore, because tanks are just that much tankier to survive the insane amount of damage that's in the game, and Darius is just left behind. So Divine Sunder is that big boost we need to kill tanks effectively. So yeah, it's a great item if you're behind or if you're up against tanks. Frostbite Gauntlet is actually extremely underrated in my opinion, and I've built it quite a lot. It's an amazing item because it just makes you so much more tankier than the other options. The stats it gives in terms of health and the resistances are absolutely massive, and the thing that's underrated is the snowbind. Now the thing is, when you slow people, that just guarantees your Qs, because in higher ranks, people dodge your Qs very easily, right? They can just move in or out of your Q range, and then they just dodge it, right? The frozen area basically sets up more Qs. So this item lets you survive for way longer. Not to mention how the immolate and just the item's magic damage in general gives you an underrated amount of extra damage that means that you're not that much lacking in terms of the damage department. You'll still just dunk on people in teamfights and stuff. It's a great item if you want to be a bit more of a tanky champion rather than a damage dealer, and it's great if you're up against a champion like a Riven or like a Fiora or something, where having that snowbind area on them will just devastate their fighting, because they'll just be slowed by this area and you can just kite them however much you want. As for the legendaries, I'm going to go through them real quick. Sterax is our favorite legendary item in the game. It works amazingly with Darius. The shield is really good, the stats are really good. Get it every single game, either second item or third item if you build Homebreaker before. Death Stance is an amazing teamfight item. If you want to just absolutely stomp all over teamfights, get Death Stance. But if you're playing more side lane, or if you want to be a bit more tanky, then Death Stance is a very risky option. Because if you die with Death Stance, then you're basically just trolling, because damage builds fall off harder when you die than tank builds. Silvery Dawn is there if you need a QSS for that game against a Malzahar or a Mordekaiser or something. Chempunk Chainsword's there if you need anti-heal from Executioner's Calling. Keep in mind, Executioner's Calling is better anti-heal for Darius than Bramble Vest, because for Bramble Vest to work, they have to hit you, and a lot of champions can just choose to not auto-attack you, like Vladimir or whatever, and just heal off of your teammates. So yeah, this is the better anti-heal item. If you just need that anti-heal, no one's going to get it. Damien Has Played is a great item if you want to get around the map quickly, but it's not the best if your goal is to be super tanky, because the stats it gives are quite pathetic compared to the other armor items. Force of Nature is the best anti-AP damage item because it just cuts out so much of it. The 70 magic resist is like basically the highest in the game as far as I know, but it's like put on top of this massive passive Dissipate, which cuts 25% of all magic damage, which is absolutely huge. This is a massive item. If you're up against a massive source of AP damage like Cassio's or whatever, just something that's like a constant DPS. Random's Omen is an amazing anti-crit item. If you're up against a Tryndamere, a Yasuo, or like a Fed Yone, buy this item, pop it near them, and then you've basically neutered them for the entire fight. Spirit Visage is the magic resist item you get if you are really fed, because if you're more fed, you're relying on your Q heals, your Sterax shields, your Death Stance heals. So this item basically synergizes with a much more aggressive Darius kit, because it gives us more healing and more shielding. Thornmail is there if you need to build up Bramble Vest into another item, if you're up against the Fiora, or just a team that does a lot of auto-attacking healers in general, like a Fed Draven or something. This item is absolutely huge. The only drawback is that you gotta pull people to apply the 60% grievous wounds on them, but this isn't the worst thing in the world, however, because a lot of the champions that build Omnivap or just lifesteal in general are ones who tend to stay in your range. Like long range champions don't build these because they won't be in the fight, they don't need them. Gargoyle Stoneplate is the premier tank item. It's amazing, it's got a lot of stats, and it gives us this unbeatable shield that you can pop whenever you want. The extra % bonus magic resistance and armor are also great. It's just very, very expensive, so you should only get it if you have a lot of gold to work with. Anthemus Chains is a great item if the enemy has a single carry you gotta just make sure to not take too much damage from. It's also great if you're building armor and you can put it on the AP damage source so you can actually just focus more so on armor. Last but definitely not the least is Hullbreaker. Hullbreaker is an amazing item for Darius in this season. If you're getting camped, if you're getting weak-sided by their team, if you are finding yourself fighting multiple people alone, then Hullbreaker is an amazing item. If you're also losing lane against a champion where you're just constantly all-inning, the Hullbreaker is also great because it just gives you that extra bit of stats needed to just completely destroy them in that fight. Hullbreaker is up to 200% gold efficient if you're using the passive, so it's no joke to just get this item, rush it at first item, and just try to win the lane off of it. And as a bonus, it lets you just absolutely demolish turrets and just destroy them if your enemy top laners are top lane for like a single minute. The thing with Hullbreaker though is that you want to get it latest by second item, because after that point you're mostly fighting with your team anyway, so you won't be using the passive of this item at all. Aside from that, I got a bunch of example builds here, depending on your playstyle. If you're looking to be an absolute team fighting monster, then this is the build you want to go for. If you want to be super tanky and just be like a split pushing, tanky team fighting monster, just a mix of everything combined, then this is a great build. If you want to play for side lane and just, split push and then go for flanks on the enemy team to really make use of the Hullbreaker passive since you're just going to fight the enemy backline by yourself, then this is an amazing build because it just gives you all you need, the move speed, the tankiness, and the Hullbreaker passive to just make you super, super powerful when you're on the side lane. Alright, that's pretty much it. I'll leave this item set code in the description below for you guys to use. And yeah, let's just get into the bit of the in-game stuff. In order for you guys to not run around like headless chickens, I'm going to basically go through a few of the more simple Darius combos you got to master in order to basically crush games straight out of the bat. The simplest thing on Darius is using your W as an auto attack cancel. So instead of just waiting for 2 auto attacks like this, use auto attack and then W like that. And you basically get 2 auto attacks off way faster. W is an auto attack reset, meaning that if you press W, your auto attack will be ready as soon as you press W, instead of waiting for the next auto attack. The next mechanic you gotta know is the WQ animation cancel. So basically, anytime during your W auto attack, you can press Q and have them both, happen at the same time. Now we can combine these two things to make our first 3-stack combo. Auto WQ. Auto WQ. There we go. Make sure to not mess up the WQ. A lot of people do auto and then do this a bit too early and the W doesn't go off. Or maybe they do like auto, W, and then Q. Like, it's not wrong, but it's just not fast enough to make it so that the combo is like, properly done. It has to be with the WQ cancel. Auto, WQ. Now, one thing about Darius is that a lot of people just use his E for no reason, okay? If you're in range to fight someone like this, don't E them. Just keep your E for later because your E is your only defensive tool. Your E is not just a pull, but it's also your stun. So if there's a champion that can kill you in a second, you can use your E to delay the fight long enough for you to basically do some play, land your Q, whatever, just stop them from fighting and just get more stacks on them to kill them before they kill you, okay? So save your E for later on in the fight. An example of this is the W start all-in combo. So here's how it goes, okay? So this is an all-in combo for champions who don't have any dashes left, who are in your melee range. We start off with auto WQ, auto E, auto, and then you can just, do enough damage and then fight them until they're enough to kill with ultimate. With the ultimate buffs, this should be a bit sooner rather than later, but still, you gotta basically just freestyle it at that point. There are a few mechanics you can do in Darius that are kind of self-explanatory. Flash Q is kind of done like that. You don't want to flash in the beginning of the Q because this just gives the opponent a lot of time to react. You don't want to flash in the right at the end, so that they have no time to basically, react to what you just did. There's also a nice teamfight engage that Darius can do, which is like Flash E. So let's say the enemy team is right here, you can do Flash E and just engage the teamfight for your team. The thing is, though, if you are the engager in a teamfight, then the enemy team is going to destroy you in 2 seconds. So make sure your team is actually fed enough to win the fight on their own. You can also flash in the middle of your ultimate like this. So if you're in a situation where, let's say that this guy is like about to do an AoE spell, like an Aatrox Q, that's about to kill me. So I do my combo, Okay. He Qs, I ult, and I flash away and I run as he bleeds to death. A technique that is super important against more skilled players is to combo your E with your Q to guarantee that your Q lands. Q is Darius' most important skill in a fight, so landing it or missing it can mean life or death. So if you're up against a champion who can flash out your Q or dash into like a Riven E, you do EQ, and you land the Q while the target is airborne so they can't actually just move out. The Q lands 100%. Alright, that is pretty much it for this guide. Be sure to subscribe to the Astralis League channel for more high quality champion guides. We've already made a video on Jinx, so if you need a champion that's basically one of the strongest ADCs in the current season, go check that video out. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video. I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.